Hi folks, this is Mediocre Chess Meister, aka the Travel Meister, and I'm showing you a game here today that has another remove the defender theme, which same as an earlier game I showed today. And the great thing about this one is how insanely behind I was. I was at minus 13.57 at one point according to the engine here, and I actually managed to reverse that to a winning game with just one tactic. So you can all have a watch, and you might have seen the short version already, but this one's gonna have a lot more insights. You can see it, you can decide if which moves got me wrong and in trouble, and which moves were something you can use later. So I would recommend you watch this one. This is the medium version, and there won't be a long version. I think this will be enough. It's a relatively short game, 22 moves. So I start off with e4, c5, knight to f3, a6. This is the Sicilian defense, but usually I don't see this a6 move as much. It's usually either knight to c6 or d6, but I just went ahead and played the usual open type game that I play, d4. Then we have c takes d4, knight takes d4, very normal for me in the Sicilian. b5, another move that I don't usually see. I just went ahead with development. I played bishop to d3. He played e6, trying to gain some central control. He's finally pushing his central pawns up, which is odd because he hadn't up until this point he hadn't put any of them to the center. I go ahead and castle. He fianchettos his bishop to b7, r to e1. I'm putting my rook in a centralized file. Later it's going to be much more useful. You don't want it stuck here for no reason. d6, again, getting his grip on the central control. And I play a3. I'm not sure why I played this move. Probably the same reason he played his move. It's kind of for the future. Often after you've done all your work, you'll see the bishop coming here. Sometimes the knight will come here and then come here. So this is a very useful pawn to put up. And also, I guess my main reason was I was planning to put my own knight up here, and I didn't want him pushing it away with this pawn push. So this was just to ward off any of those kind of moves coming later on. He continues with knight to d7. Again, he can't. I guess he didn't want to block his bishop in with knight to c6, which is more usual. And he's gonna now play ahead to either c5 or e5. Really nice central squares. I go ahead with bishop e3, just development. Knight on g to f6, he's also developing, and I'm developing. Knight to c3, bishop to e7, he's preparing to castle. He gets his bishop out of the way. Sorry. And I play queen to f3. So this is my first big decision, not just a regular development move. The queen, this is the entire king side, like real estate, and having a queen here is often really dangerous, especially if you don't have a queen to defend it. This queen is kind of blocked in from this generic area here, and because now the queen has like really strong very direct attacks on the king. It's always a nervy moment when you have a king somewhere here and the queen is just lurking around. It's very, very nervy. And I also have two bishops just pointing away, coming in for the attacks, aided by this queen, and this knight hopefully gonna come and put a lot of pressure in some of these really key squares. So that was my plan for the placing the queen there. He plays rook to c8, just putting it, kind of developing it, putting it on a long file. It's open from his side. It's semi-open file, so that's usually a good move. But I go ahead on the king side. This is a very normal move. I played, for me at least, queen to g3. So The reason behind this is that it gives control of this the G file here, and often you'll see after castling, this pawn is really it's pinned at the moment, and especially in amateur games and especially in the games I've played, this is a very common tactic. You then go ahead and play bishop to h6. The idea is he can't take it because it's pinned, this pawn is pinned, and he has no other choice but to play ahead to prevent the checkmate, because I am threatening checkmate here. And what would happen is he would play this, I would take it and win the exchange. I would take the rook. So in the game, after I played knight to g3, this is indeed what happened. He castled, I played bishop to h6, but he did the usual defensive move I've seen in our kind of games, and that is knight to h5. He is both protecting this pawn from checkmate, and he's attacking the queen, pushing the queen away. So I go ahead and play queen to g4, getting it, securing it away while still maintaining the file. And now, what's happened before in other games, and what I'm kind of threatening now, is that if his knight is attacked, so he has no choice but to place it back, and when he does, it's mate. But this is a different case than usual, because he happened to have this knight, and that's what he does. He plays knight on d to f6, and now he's protecting this knight and attacking my queen, and this knight is protecting the g7 pawn. So now I'm in a bit of trouble, and I'm actually pretty behind. According to the computer, I'm at minus 4.16. This was just a mess of it, just because of this knight. And other times this might have worked. Eventually they do often push the pawn to g6, and then I can take the rook and win the exchange. Now I have no choice, because I can't move the queen away from this file, because then my bishop's gonna fall. This pawn will no longer be pinned to the king. But at the same time, I don't really have much squares for the queen. I can't play here, it's attacked by the knight on h5, and I can't play here. I can't stay where I am, it's being attacked by the f6 knight, and I obviously can't play here. So I do the only thing I can, which is queen to g5, still maintaining the pin on this on the pawn, and still protecting the bishop. But I'm in a lot of trouble now, because as soon as he moves king to h8, this pawn is no longer pinned and is now free to take the bishop, and the bishop is blocked in. He only has two squares. This is blocked by the queen, and this is protected by the knight. I have no choice. I think a bit of what I'm gonna do, and I eventually end up deciding to damage whatever I can here, just to open the king's protection up, and I capture on g6, on g7. It's a check, but obviously he's gonna take it with his knight. Knight captures g7, and now I'm down a bishop for a pawn, and I've lost a bit of momentum in the attack. He's got quite a lot of defending pieces. This rook can come here, not only attack my queen and defend the side, but he's also got a direct attack on my king side as well. So I can't really retreat the queen. I don't want to come this far and then just go back. So I do a rook lift, rook to e3, and this is the rook's gonna swing over on this rank. It can come to any of these squares and put a lot of pressure. It's again really open files here, and especially with the queen in tow as a battering ram, we can do a lot of damage. So that was my intent, even though my options were running thin. I had lost a lot of momentum, and there was too many defending pieces. He goes ahead with what I suspected, rook to g8. Now, not only is the rook securing this file from a lot of attacks, it's attacking the queen, attacking the king, direct attacks, and I don't have much choice. But I try and plow ahead with my attack. I place I put rook to h3, mainly putting pressure on the h7 pawn. I'm hoping that once I can somehow remove this key knight here, with my queen around, I can deliver a checkmate. I would have to get rid of this guy though, and that's proving to be a challenge at the moment. And he plays knight to f5. It's a discovered attack on my queen. I also can't move my queen here because the knight on f5 still it's protecting this square here. I can't place my queen here or here, again defended by all these knights. So what I really wanted to do, putting pressure on h7 with my battering ram of rook and a queen, it's not proving possible. I can't stay on this file either because of this rook. So I have no choice but to retreat my queen to f4. And now I'm in a lot of trouble. I've just lost a lot of momentum, a lot of gas, and I'm down a bishop. And now, as you'll see, this not only was this discovered attack, it was actually a double attack. It was an attack on my queen, and at the same time an attack on my hanging knight here on d4. So when I move back to f4, he goes ahead and captures on d4. Now I'm down by a knight and a bishop and only have a pawn. I'm in a lot of trouble, and I think of something desperate. I still have this vague hope of this h7. This is the only thing I'm going on. I'm hoping at some point I'm gonna somehow land the right pieces on it and win the game. So I go ahead with the thinnest of hopes. I push e5, trying to knock this knight out. And now I'm gonna give you a chance to think about what opened up and what I might do next. So he goes ahead and plays the wrong move, which is he takes on e5. I'm gonna pause here for a minute. I'm gonna let you guys try and figure out what my next move was and how I turned it from extremely losing position to a winning position. So I'll go ahead and pause now. Okay, I hope you had a chance to figure it out. His e5, my pawn push from e4 to e5 did something that opened up a new possibility for me. And if you have solved it, congratulations. But if you haven't, I'm going to give you one more clue. The first one, a second clue, because the first one was that my pawn push opened something up. That's one clue. And my second clue is that this is a remove the defender situation. So I'm going to give you one more chance. Try and figure out how removing a certain defender can open up possibilities for me. I hope you had a chance to solve it. So the move that I played after he failed to deal with this is the open diagonal that opened up when I pushed my pawn up, and now I went ahead and did an insane queen sacrifice. I took on f6. I lost. I'm gonna lose my queen because of the bishop here, and at the same time I only gained a knight, so it's a big queen sacrifice, but it allows me to play the fatal move, rook to h7 checkmate. The rook is being protected by this bishop here, which just had its diagonal opened up very soon, just a couple of moves ago, and at the same time the king can't move here. It's being attacked by my rook, and he's blocked in by his own rook. And this was a cool little tactic I found out of nowhere that got me out of a completely lost game. I was down by a lot and I would have eventually ground out to a halt. And you can also see that my own pawn is under attack by almost the identical setup. So I would have been in a lot more trouble soon, but luckily I found a really cool tactic. And I hope you can use ideas like this. Keep opening up diagonals, opening up files, opening up lines towards the exposed king. I hope it's helped me a lot before. It's found me little wins where there shouldn't be. So please don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe. And I hope to see you soon, tomorrow probably. and have a good night.